I'm Michael Kemp. Today, we're going to teach you how to handle your show dog. For those of you who may not know, I've been a professional handler for 18 years. During those 18 years, I've handled dogs in all 7 groups, and I've had the pleasure of handling some top-wind and show dogs too. This class is designed for those of you who have little or no experience. And what we're going to do is teach you some things today that'll make it easier for you and will be helpful to you, so that when you go to the dog show to show your dog, you won't be nervous and you'll have something to work on, and as opposed to going in there and having the surroundings scare you half to death and not being able to get the job done because of that. I love dogs, and I really enjoy teaching people how to handle their show dogs, so I know that this tape is going to be a great help to you. I'd like to start off by giving you some helpful hints that you can use prior to going into the show ring. First of all, you should look on the schedule and find out what your ring number is, and go to the ring early and observe the judge. Sometimes judges have different ways of doing things, and you want to observe his methods. You want to find out what kind of pattern he's having the people make with their dogs, and you want to observe his hands. Sometimes some judges have hands that are maybe a little stronger on a dog than others, and if so, if you want to know that going in, so that when you get there you'll be prepared for that, and you can soothe your dog and talk to him and keep him calm so that he's not startled by that. Also, it will keep you from having to wonder what you're going to do when you get there. You'll already have a good idea what his procedure is and how he does things. For instance, sometimes a judge will call the dogs into the ring and just say, all right, take the dogs around the ring right off the bat without even looking at them. That is, after he's checked the armbands. Other judges will have you set the dogs up and he'll walk around and observe them and so forth. They might have you make an L pattern when you move the dog. You might ask you to make a triangle or down and back, whatever. By going there early, you observe these things and get prepared. At that time, you can pick up your armband too. Then you need to take the time to familiarize your dog with surroundings. Just put a lead on him and take him and walk him around the building and let him get used to what's there. Sometimes new dogs are a little bit frightened by the surroundings and the noises and so forth. And then there are other dogs that are not, and they're happy. So you have to protect your dog in both instances from things that might startle them or other dogs that might frighten them. If you have a dog that's real happy and he's playful, keep him on a short lead so that he doesn't jump into another dog and have a dog fight. And then the same thing applies to a dog that may be a little shy. You don't want to let him be jumped by a dog that's aggressive. Then the next thing you need to do is to get a toy of some sort. Find something the dog likes and let him play with it while you're at the show and make it fun for him. And this same toy can even be taken into the ring and used to keep him happy. And when you're first starting out, usually you'll have a new dog and a new handler. So when you're in there, try to have fun. Don't try to make the dog perfect. Try to remember the things that I teach you today, but let it be fun for you and your dog. Earlier we talked about putting a lead on the dog and walking him around the building to familiarize him. Now you're going to have to choose a lead that's best for your dog. Basically, you have 2 kinds of leads. One is this type lead made by Resco, and then there's another one of a similar type made by Simplicity. And what it is just a piece of material with a slide that works up and down like this, goes on the dog's neck, and the slide just goes down like that. The other one is a choke chain and a leather strap with a snap on it. Okay? Now when you put this choke chain on the dog, it has to be done properly to get the right results. First thing, you have to put the chain down through the ring just like this. And when you put it on the dog's neck, it has to be done so that the chain comes out, pulls out of the ring toward you, like this. When you pull it and you let go, then it releases. If you do it the other way, like this, then it doesn't release. First, I want to show you how to use a Resco lead. It's very simple. You just place the lead over the dog's head like this, bring it around here, and keep his muzzle in position so that he doesn't nosedive on you and cause you a lot of problems. After you get it on like that, just slide the lead down like this. Next thing you need to do is you need to reach underneath here and pull the lead up like this, And get it up as high as you can like that, and then just pull up on this, and then you've got it in position. If you don't keep it up underneath there like that, it's going to get down in the middle of his neck, and I'll show you what will happen then. There you are, you got problems. You can't get him up. So you need to get it right up underneath here, just like that, with your little finger while you're holding his muzzle, and then just put pressure on it, pull it up, and then slide into position. You're ready to go. Next we're going to demonstrate the choke chain. I've already got it through the ring. You just slide it over the dog's head like this, and then you'll notice that the chain comes out on the handler's side like this, so that when you use it, you just pull up on it like this, and then when you let go, it releases. Be sure that you put it on so that it comes out toward you, just like that. Don't put it on the other way. Don't make it come out like this. Don't have it coming out on that side, because when you let go, it just stays there, because the pressure is over on your side and it won't release. So it has to go so that it's on the handler's side, like this. Okay? Now we're ready to teach you how to set up your dog for examination. First, you want to make sure you have the lead up underneath the dog like this, as we talked about before. And then just put a little pressure on it and hold it right there in your left hand. Then you want to change hands like this. Steady the dog by putting your hand behind his head. Then take his left leg with your left hand and put it up underneath him like this. Then change hands. Take your right hand and set his right leg underneath him like this. Now change hands again and use your left hand to set up the rear. Just reach up underneath the dog like this and put it right here in a comfortable position, and then take your left hand and do the other leg. Now the dog is set and he's in a comfortable, natural position. Notice I just put a little pressure on the lead to raise his head up and put it in proper position. If the head is not in a proper position, you're going to have problems keeping the dog set up right. If his head gets down like this, he can lean back, or the lead can slip down in the middle of his neck, and you don't have any control when it's in there like this, then you're all fouled up. You have to get this up underneath here and keep it there. When you finish setting the hindquarters, just raise his head up with your hand like that. Then take the tail, if it's the kind of breed that needs the tail up, and then just hold him up like that. Don't hold on to the tail this way or with your hand in front of it or something like that. Just a nice natural position, just like this. Now I want to show you about setting up the front. When you set up a dog, you want to make sure that it's nice and natural, and yet you want the dog to have character. You don't want to set him up where he's standing with his feet too close together, where they look like they come out of the same hole. But by the same token, you don't want to set him up like this in an unnatural position. It makes him look too wide in the front, and it's just not the way a dog stands in the first place. So you just walk him in there, and you just set up his front with the right hand just like this in a nice, natural position, just like that. And that's the way they're supposed to be. Then when you do the rear, you want the dog to have character when you set him up, but at the same time, when doing the front first, you want the rear to be in a comfortable, natural position, just like the front. Just take your left hand and reach underneath here, and put your hand on the dog's knee and use it for a handle, and just turn his hock just like that. Then you reach over and take this hock and do like that. Depends on the dog. Now some dogs may not like you to hold them there. Some dogs don't. They feel out of balance when you pick up their leg from there like that. So some dogs you may have to reach over the top and do it like this. If it's a terrier or a dog with a lot of furnishings, I like to just set up the hindquarters with my hand like this. By just putting my hand up underneath here and take the thigh in my hand just like that and do the same thing right here so that I don't get my hand into the furnishings and mess them all up. On this type dog, this is a terrier type or a dog that's set up more square. All you do is just draw an imaginary line from the base of the tail straight down to his toe, and that's where you want the back feet to be. This kind of dog should not be set up with his hindquarters way out behind him like this. You can see what happens. You get a dog that's posting now, he's leaning back, and it's not typical of this type breed. The same thing applies to smaller terrier breeds or pugs or Pomeranians or any kind of dog that is a square type dog. Here we have a different kind of dog. You know, I mentioned to you about the terrier type or the square breed. This kind of dog has to be set up with his hindquarters out farther behind him than the other breeds. So when you set the front up, be sure to put the front legs up underneath the dog more than you normally would. Place them way up underneath him like this, so that when you reach back here and stretch the hindquarters, then the front legs will end up in their proper position as opposed to being too far out in front of him. You just pull them out like that, and then you've got a dog whose front is like it's supposed to be. Now we have a small dog that has to be examined on the table. And one of the things I want to talk about is how to put the dog on the table from the ground. Now this happens to be a dachshund, and of course you wouldn't use his tail to pick him up, but some smaller breeds with short tails like fox terriers and Scotties and dogs like that, you'll see people hold the lead and pick the dog up by the tail like this or underneath here or whatever. I think that it's a lot better to not do that. It's a lot of strain on the dog's tail, and I think that more often than not you'd be better off not to do it that way. The way I prefer to do it is just to put my hand under the lead like this, and then just reach underneath the dog, and all the strain now is on my left hand, not on this lead. I'm just holding on to it, and then just put him up on the table. Now, once you're on the table, you're ready for the judge to examine your dog. So what you have to do is reach up underneath here and put the dog out here on the end of the table so that he's in a good position and the judge can get to him. Now, just like we did before on the ground, you just take the lead and put it in your right hand and reach over here and put the dog's left leg where it belongs. Take your right hand, put his right leg where it belongs. Put his head in the right position. Make sure the lead is up underneath his chin. Just like that. Hold on and put a little pressure there. Then change hands. Take your left hand and do the hindquarters. This is a dog whose tail needs to be up, so you just hold it up, maintaining the proper position with his head. Now, when the dogs are on the ground or the table, there are going to be times when they get a little nervous, so don't be afraid to talk to them. Just because you're in there doesn't mean you can't talk. You can. Here's a dog that's going to give us a little problem, so you just say, "Good boy, Rounder, good boy." Then he might sit down just like he did, but don't be nervous. Just go through and do it over again. Now, you've heard me mention a couple of things, and one thing in particular for now is about encouraging your dog. You know, you might feel a little bit intimidated when you're in the ring, and you might feel like, well, it's not proper for me to speak or to say anything to the dog while the judge is examining him and so forth. But that's not true. Quite often while the judges are going over my dogs, I speak to them, I encourage them, I call them by name if I have to. I just pet them and keep them calm and steady them down so that they will stand still and do the job. It's a lot better to use a soft hand and not be yanking on the lead and trying to force the dog. It's a lot better to encourage them and to touch them with soft hands and talk to them than it is to try to force them and yank on the lead and so forth. The other thing that you've heard me mention several times is character. Now, what I mean by that is when the dog is set up, he needs to be set up in a way that does show character and that the dog is proud and he looks like a show dog. For instance, if you don't have his head in the proper position, if his hindquarters are too far out behind him or his front is too far out in front of him or the hindquarters are too far up underneath the dog, then he's going to look like a dog who's maybe sagging in the middle or just standing in a position that doesn't look like a show dog. And if you can learn to put the feet where they belong and get the head in the right position, and when you hold the dog and show it to the judge, you are projecting a dog that has character, and it makes it look like you're proud of the dog and the dog is saying, "Look at me." That's what I mean by character. Now we're ready to gait the dog. The first thing you have to know is how to hold the lead properly. So all you do is take the end of it and fold it over in little pieces like this, over and over and over until you get to the proper length. Once you get there, you just let the rest of the lead come over your index finger and out the bottom of your hand, just like this. Now you have this folded up part in the palm of your hand, and you don't have to make a fist to hold on to it. All you have to do is just hold it in your index finger and your thumb, just like that, and the pressure then is on your little finger, and you can make little corrections with your hand like this, and as opposed to making a fist like this. When you do that, then you're limited to what you can do as far as correcting your dog. You're just about limited to movements like this or like that, and your hand is tight, and you don't have a nice relaxed grip on the lead. This way, you can make little light corrections with your fingers like this if you have to, and your hand is relaxed, and there's no way this lead can slip through here. All you're doing is lightly holding it with your thumb and index finger. It can't come through there, because when it pulls, you automatically press with your thumb, and there you are. So hold it like this. Now we've learned how to hold the lead. Now we're going to actually gait the dog. And remember, I mentioned to you about folding the lead up in your hand and arriving at the proper length of lead. I always like to show a dog on a lead that is about this long. Of course, it depends on the height of the dog. If you had a little small dog, of course, it'd be difficult to get the lead that sharp. But I think it's important to have your hand in this position as opposed to something like this or somewhere in this area like this. When the lead is folded up and your hand is down here and your forearm is in a position like this, you have more leverage. From here, you can still go down if you need to relax the lead, and you can also go up. And you have the most leverage and you have the most control of your dog from here. If your hand is in this position, then you can still go down, but you don't have a lot of leverage from here. And also, the lead is too long. And when you get up in this area, it's really too long. And of course, you can still go down, but you can't go up. And if you went any higher than that, you'd be out of business. So you need to find a position on this lead that is comfortable, something that resembles this. The arm at an angle about like this. Not way down in here and not up in here. Just somewhere right in the middle, about like this. When you gait the dog on a lead that's too long, you're going to find that if he goes in a straight line when the judge asks him to move, you're just lucky. You're going to be lucky unless you have a dog that's really trained well or really just moves straight on his own every time. So when your hand is up here, you reduce your ability to control the dog with your fingers, like I mentioned before. You're strictly limited to this kind of stuff. And it's just like when you learned in school, the shorter the lead is, the smaller the angle is going to be at the bottom when this string moves. If it's long, you're going to have a dog that can move like this. If you got a little short lead down here, then the dog is limited to where he can go, and you control him. Your hand is almost on him then, and you have better control of him, plus you're closer to him when you're walking the dog or gaiting the dog. Therefore, you're going to be able to do your job better because you're going to be able to go in a straight line better. All right, now you're in the ring, and the judge has examined your dog, and it's time for you to move your dog. And he'll stand back and look at your dog possibly after he's examined it, and he'll say, walk over, and he'll say, now will you please move your dog down and back, or make an L or a triangle, whatever he decides to use. The thing you need to keep in mind is, at that point, don't just get your lead ready and then just take off like this. You've got to be in proper position before you take off. If the judge says, now move your dog, what you want to do is you can do what they call a courtesy turn, or you can just aim your dog in the straight line that you need to make. And he says, now, would you please move your dog down and back? So you just take your dog, go around like this, get the dog comfortable. He's now ready to go. Just take his muzzle and aim him in the direction you want to go, and make sure that he's in a straight line, just like this dog is. And now you're ready to go. Now, when I told you about the length of lead is very important. I want to show you what can happen when you take the dog out and back on a lead that's too long. Here I am with a lead that's too long. Come on. I've got a dog that has to go in a straight line, and I'm supposedly a beginner showing my dog, and it's difficult to do these things like someone who's had a lot of experience when you're just getting started. And when he says go out and back, sometimes you can even lose your bearings on the mat even and go from side to side. Whereas if you're closer to the dog on a nice short lead like I showed you, then when you go out and back, you have control. And you don't have to be worried about where you're going because you're closer to the dog and the two of you are going together as opposed to one doing one thing and the other doing something else. Also, if your dog starts to vary off of the straight line, you have your fingers here and you can just give him a little light touch and keep him right in line. Let me show you how it works. Get him ready to go. All right, let's go. All right, let's go. All right, now your dog is set up, and the judge has examined him, and the next thing is that he's going to ask you to move your dog. And he may step back and examine the dog first, and then ask you, and then come over and ask you to move your dog straight down and back, or a triangle, or an L, whatever he chooses. From here, you want to have your dog in good position before you move him. By that I mean, if you're standing here with your dog and he says, now will you please take it out and back, don't just get up and just go from here and start off. You have to have the dog in proper position before you go. Otherwise, he may end up starting off at the wrong angle, and consequently all the way down there he's going to be moving improperly, and it won't please the judge. So what you do from that position, when he says, would you please move your dog out and back, just stand up and take the dog over here and aim his nose in the direction that you're going to travel, and make sure that he's pretty straight before you go. You don't want him to be aimed over here like this, and then you take off and expect him to go in a straight line. You want him to start from this position, and the judge says, now move your dog. Just take him right over here like this, walk him up here, and aim him in the right direction. And then he says, take your dog down and back, and you just go like this on a nice short lead like this. Now, we talked about different patterns that the judge will ask you to make, and they are a straight down and back pattern, or an L-shaped pattern, or a triangle. Of course, also he'll ask you to go around the entire ring, and he may ask you to do that individually and or as a group. But first we want to talk about the individual patterns. And when you do these things, it's very important to choose the right speed for your dog. And when you're at home, you can get a friend to move the dog for you at different speeds and decide which one is best for him. Some dogs that move closer or wider behind at different speeds, and you have to select the speed that makes him look best when he's going away, and the same thing when he's returning to the judge. Some dogs move too wide in the front maybe if they're moved too fast, and vice versa. So the same thing applies for both ends of the dog. You just have to choose the speed that makes him look best. And also you have to consider the speed when you're showing the dog in profile and moving him, as in a triangle, or when you're going around the ring, or even when you're making an L pattern. You're going to show the judge the dog's profile at some point. So you have to get the best speed for that. Usually, when you move the dog away from the judge, it's better to move at a little bit slower pace, coming and going, because you want to get the dog's feet right where they're supposed to be, and that's mainly what he's looking at. But by the same token, if you have a breed that's supposed to be a frisky, happy breed, you don't want to have them plodding along at a speed that's unattractive. You just have to use your common sense and realize that when he says take your dog down and back, or he's asking you to make a triangle or an L, when you're going away from him and when you're coming back to him, make it count. So get the speed right so that you don't lose your chance. Sometimes they only give you one chance, and you don't want to blow that chance by moving your dog at the wrong speed. Also, we want to talk about how to make these patterns and what's the correct way. Sometimes you'll see people change hands with their dog and show him on his profile 2 times when they're moving him. I think that that's an awkward movement. I think that continuation of movement is much better than changing hands and having to go through all of that business. And I'll demonstrate that for you in just a moment. Now I want to show you the correct way to move the dog when you're going to make an L pattern. Come on, son. I think that when you start off, you should gradually build up to the speed that is correct for your dog. Don't just make the first 2 steps that you take full speed, if it's a dog, especially if it's a dog you're going to have to trot with. And also, I want to interject something right here about that. Quite often you'll see people going fast just to be going fast, and I think that that's a real mistake. Depending on the size of the person, of course, you're better off, except in breeds that do require trotting, or a fast gait, you're better off to walk at a brisk pace when you can, or when you have to break into a trot, at least make it a controlled speed that makes some sense. I see people running with dachshunds and running with the little short-legged dogs, and it just doesn't look good, and it sometimes creates a bad image when they can't see the dog's feet and they don't know exactly whether they're moving right or not. However, in profile, there are times when you're going to have to speed up to make the dog a little flashier, but don't just go fast just to be going fast. Okay, let's make an L. First thing you want to do is start off gradually, build up your speed. And then when you turn that corner down there, you want to pick up the speed a little bit so that you can show the dog's reach in the front and his drive behind. And then when I get down to the end of this L and I turn around, I want you to see how I do it. I'm not going to change hands and show the judge the other side of the dog. I'm just going to make a turn and continue and come right back. Come on, son, let's go. Now notice right here, I'm not going to stop dead, but I'm stopping now so I can tell you this. When you get to this point and you're getting ready to turn the corner and come back, you want to make sure that you slow down just a little when you make the turn so that the dog, as soon as he turns and comes back to the judge, he is aimed in a straight line and his rear end doesn't swing out in that direction because of the momentum of making the turn. So here you are and you're making the turn. Now, notice that when I came back to the judge, I didn't run. I just took nice big steps. You won't find too many dog show rings any bigger than this. And by doing that, I've got my dog in control, and the judge can see how good he moves. If I come around that corner 100 miles an hour and don't slow down and don't make sure that he looks good, then I may have lost my chance to win. And that's what you're here for, is to win. So the same principles apply on the down and back, or the L, or the triangle. I'm going to show you a triangle now, as far as when you're coming and going. You have to maintain the correct speed so that the judge can see the dog move well. Now we'll make a triangle. Let's go, son. Now, in making the triangle, you notice that I took my time when I made that turn down there. It's not very often that you'll have enough room to just make a continuous turn without stopping. You can do this sometimes when you have small dogs, or if you're in a ring or an outdoor ring where you don't have to stay on the mat. But some of these buildings that you're going to be showing dogs in are going to have slippery floors, for one thing. And the other thing is that you need to maintain control of the dog so that when you start back, you show the dog's front off to its best. And that's all there is to it, is maintaining the proper speed. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about profile movement. The judge will ask you to take, when he finishes, that is, he may ask you to take your dog around the ring and go to the end of the line by yourself. And then, of course, you're going to have to move the dog as a group at some time or another during the judging. So the same thing applies there. When talking about the individual part, and he's finished with you now, he may say, would you please take your dog around the ring and go to the end of the line? Now, this is the last time he's going to see your dog by itself, probably, and you want to take advantage of it. So this time he's more concerned about the profile than he is the down and back. So However, when you start off, make it good. Don't just take off running full speed because you don't want him to get a bad impression. He's already looking good, and don't blow it. Come on, son. So we're going to go around now, and what I want you to notice is that I'm going to pick up the speed, and I'm not going to be worried about making a turn down at the end. I'm just going to keep right on going right around the ring and maintain a good speed and show off this dog's profile. Let's go. All right, now I want to talk to you about what happens when the judge asks you to go around the ring as a group. Now, we have 3 different breeds here, but we're talking about when you're in the ring and you all have the same breed. There'll be dogs that move at different speeds, and you may discover that after going around the ring the first time that the dog in front of you doesn't move quite as quickly as your dog does. And if when he says, please take your dogs around the ring, you start off without taking that into consideration, you're going to have problems, and then not only you, but the people behind you, and the first thing you know, the class is out of order trying to go around the ring, and we'll show you what I mean. Ready? Now we want to discuss one aspect of handling dogs called baiting. The baiting your dog can be very advantageous to you, and it can also work as a hindrance if it isn't done properly. You want to do this baiting in a nice, smooth way that doesn't detract from the dog, but at the same time gets the dog's attention and makes him stand in an alert position with the proper expression on his face. That's what baiting is for. It's especially used when you return to the judge after having moved him in the pattern outlined by the judge. And one thing you must do when coming back to the judge, if you're going to bait your dog, you should make sure that you've worked with him at home and know whether or not he is a baiter. If the dog is not a baiter, then the worst thing you could do when you come back to the judge is bait him and have him just go dead on you with no expression and no interest at all. So if he's not a baiter, then use that toy that I mentioned earlier, and when you come back to the judge, just toss it down on the floor or out in front of you and let the dog see it. Now when you come back to the judge, try not to stop too close to the judge. You want to come up to the judge and stop at a reasonable distance so that he can see the whole dog when you bait him and he strikes a pose for him. If you're right up under his nose, all he can see is just the top of the dog. So I'm going to demonstrate what I would do upon returning from from the movement to the judge. I'm stopping far enough away from the judge where he can see me, and then I just hold the bait because this dog is a good baiter. Now if you have a dog that you have to really get his interest up, then just put it in his mouth, and you can take it away and hold it right here and let him look at it. Now you're only going to be there for maybe 10 seconds, so it doesn't have to be something that will last for a long time, but you also have to do it quickly. And you want to stand away from the dog and hold the lead like this. You don't want to be up in here on top of him like this. Then his head's too far up in the air and he can jump up on you like he just did or whatever. He's not in good position. His legs are up underneath him. So what you want to do is just come up to the judge and stop short of him. And I like to turn the dog in profile. This way, in the event that the dog doesn't stand just right, his feet are not exactly where they're supposed to be, it's not quite as noticeable. Also, the prettiest part of the dog is the profile anyway, so we'll do that one more time and I'll show you how it's done. Also, it's a good idea to try something at home that you know he's going to like and that you can depend on him with. Don't come with something that you're not sure of. Check it out before you get to the dog show. Here we go. Do it smooth and get right to it. There he is. Now you're ready to return. That's all there is to it. You can give him a little piece, because sometimes if you don't, he'll do that. So you want to be sure that if you're going to show it to him, and it looks like he might be there a little longer than you had planned, give him a little piece so that you can hold the pose. Do it smooth and get right to it. There he is. Now you're ready to return. That's all there is to it. This is the way a dog would look if you came to the judge and you didn't bait him. This is how you would handle him when you got to the judge. Just let him walk up and put his feet down, and then just hold him there and keep him steady and let the judge see him. Don't be afraid to touch him at that point. It's all right. Just do whatever you have to do to walk him up there and let him steady himself. He's standing fairly well, and his feet are in the right position. Just walk him up and let him stop. Then the other thing you can do, if the dog won't take food but will bait for something else, you can use the toy that I mentioned, and you just go like this. Come on. That's beautiful. Now remember, if your dog is not a good baiter and you haven't been able to find any way to get his interest up yet, above all, don't go to the judge and say, well, today maybe he's going to do it and try to bait him, because if you do, then he's not going to look good. You're going to show the judge that he isn't as animated as you'd like for him to be. And by the same token, if your dog, for some reason, who has been baiting, suddenly is not baiting that particular day or doesn't want to take the bait, this is what you should do. You just go back to the judge and you make sure that when the dog stops, that he's in good position, his feet are in the proper position, and his pose is natural, and you can put your hand on him and steady him like this. Now we want to talk about behavior in the ring, or what should you be doing while you're waiting your turn to be judged. Now, from time to time, you'll be in the ring under a judge who likes to look around and review the dogs that he's already judged, or even take a look at some of those maybe that he hasn't judged. And if you're in that situation, you need to be aware of that, and that's probably something you would have picked up when I told you about going to the ring early at the beginning of this lesson. So, while you're in the ring, there are some things that you need to do. If you have a judge that's looking around like that, you can't actually be showing your dog 100% the entire time you're in there, especially if you're in there with 10 or 15 dogs. But if you have to be aware of his timing, and if he's going to be looking around, just have him standing in a comfortable position. You don't even have to pose him. You can just stand like this and just hold him. Just make sure he's not sitting down or looking around back like this somewhere, and you're just kind of standing around like this and you don't know what's going on. Also, don't spend time talking to your friends in the ring, and or friends outside the ring for that matter. Just if the judge is not looking around checking the dogs too much, well then just keep the dog standing in a comfortable position and don't let him look bad, but you don't have to show him hard the whole time you're there. But be on your toes, pay attention to what's going on so that you know when it's your turn, and just relax. But remember, don't let the dog look bad while you're in there. Do not let your dog look bad. Now we've been over quite a few things involving showing the dog, and I want to talk to you about something that is absolutely necessary in order to win at a dog show. First of all, of course, you have to try to get the best dog that you can find. But when you get that dog, no matter what his quality may be, you must have him in top condition. And I know that I'm talking to beginners, but you should make it your business to associate with people in your breed that know how to condition that particular breed. Because when you get to the dog show, you may lose to a dog that's not as good a dog as yours is, but is in better condition and is groomed and trimmed better, and then you're going to have a problem. So no matter what you have, make sure that the dog is in top condition. Now by that I mean his weight must be proper. A skinny dog is no better or no worse than a dog that is too heavy. The dog must be in proper weight. Also, you have to, of course, have him groomed properly. No matter what kind of breed he is, there's always some trimming or grooming involved. Make sure it's done properly, or as good as you can. His teeth have to be clean. When he's taken to the ring, make sure that his eyes are clean. Make sure that his toenails have been trimmed properly. Make sure that his nails are clean. If it's a dog that has black nails and they've got a little dirt on them or mud, then he's not ready for the ring. Make sure that you do all of the nail trimming and the ear cleaning and the tooth cleaning at home before you go to the dog show, because these things are sometimes not pleasant to the dog, and you don't want him to be going through those things while you're at the dog show. Then he's going to be in a bad mood, and you have a little problem with him. You could cut a nail too sharp, and maybe he'd come up lame. All kinds of things can happen. So do these things at home. Do your general conditioning at home, and then when you get to the dog show, you can touch him up before he goes into the ring. Now we want to talk about something that is of equal importance. I'm talking about your dress. Now it's important for the men to come to the dog show with a jacket and tie on, and make sure that your shoes are shined and your clothes are clean. It doesn't make any difference whether you've got the most expensive suit or jacket on in the world. It just makes sure that it fits you good and that you look nice and neat and you have a tie on. That's most important. Don't wear colors that are too flashy, but by the same token, don't wear colors that are too staid. It's difficult to go to your regular, ordinary dog show and show a dog in a pinstripe suit. It just doesn't look natural. So you're better off wearing a jacket or a suit that is a little more on the sporty side, where you're dressed properly, but you're not too flashy. And it's also a good idea to try to pick colors that are good for your dog. For instance, if you had a black dog, you wouldn't want to wear black pants because it'd be difficult to see the outline of the dog in front of the pants. So try to choose colors that go good with your dog. The ladies, there are a lot of things that ladies have to be concerned about, and ladies are used to dressing certain ways that may not be suitable for the dog show. You have to wear shoes, for instance, that will allow you to be agile. If you wear shoes with heels that are too high, you may have a little problem getting around the ring and making the turns and so forth. Also, you have to be careful about wearing a skirt or a dress that the skirt part on is too blousy or too large, so that it doesn't interfere with the dog's movement. It can move in the breeze while you're moving and maybe get in the dog's face or whatever and distract him. Jewelry also, you have to be careful about wearing too many bracelets and things that get in the way. They might hang up on the dog or make too much noise, just generally be a hindrance to you. And also you have to be careful about necklaces, because if you bend over, then these things will hang down and they could get hung up in the dog or just generally cause you some problems. And once again, ladies, you have to dress in such a way that is not too overdone. You don't want to be too dressy, and yet by the same token, you don't want to be too underdressed. Pants or slacks are fine under certain conditions, depending on the weather, or etc. But if you wear slacks, then the proper top is always desired. It's difficult to look the part when you have on a pair of slacks and a golf shirt type top. You're better off with a jacket over that or something like that, or wear a skirt and blouse. Just make sure that you look the part. You can figure that out for yourself. The idea is don't be overdressed nor underdressed. Now you're ready to go to the dog show. The information that we've given you today is going to help you have more fun at the dog show, and it will certainly give you a better chance of winning. Thank you, and good luck.